Now, if you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home, and if you don't want things ruined for you, then please consider this your very, very strong spoiler alert. Feel free to bookmark this video to watch it later, and then come on back so we can discuss what happens in more detail. What's up everybody, it's me E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews. Spider-Man Far From Home gave us a real surprise with its final post-credit scene with Nick Fury and Maria Hill. But the lingering question is, how long has Fury been a Skrull? I'll admit that I was really intrigued by this question myself, and I was about to do an entire deep dive video into just how long he's possibly been a Skrull. Thankfully though, the director from Far From Home, Jon Watts, just did an interview to save us all a lot of time with that pressing question. When asked about the Fury Skrull reveal, here's what he had to say. First of all, to clarify the timeline, that's real Nick Fury at Tony's funeral at the end of Endgame. So it's not like he's been a Skrull forever, or it's not like he's been a Skrull since Captain Marvel. So according to Watts, the real Fury did attend Tony's funeral during Endgame. Now, this can explain some things. If you recall, when a Skrull changes into a person, they are only able to retain short-term memories and not the long-term memories of the person they're impersonating. So if Talos really did take over for Fury after the real Fury was returned from Endgame, then Talos would have had a memory of at least being dusted and attending the funeral. But that's as far as it would go back in terms of Talos' memory as Nick Fury. Plus, something else to consider, if that was the real Fury at Stark's funeral, guess who else was in attendance? That's right, Captain Marvel was also there too. So that would have given Fury and Captain Marvel an opportunity to catch up and hatch a plan to get Talos and the Skrulls involved. Now, I do think that Watts kinda messed up here just a little, because the Skrull reveal actually was a good way to fix a potential plot hole from before. Originally, it was my impression that at the very least, Fury had been a Skrull from Infinity War. Main reason why I believe that was because of the scene at the end of Infinity War where Maria Hill was calling out Fury's name right before their car accident.
Tell Klein, we'll meet him in... Nick! Hill?
We know from Captain Marvel that no one calls Fury by his first name and only refers to him as Fury. So it would have made sense had Fury been replaced with Talos during Infinity War, because that would have fixed that issue. But again, Watts is saying that the real Fury has been here since Endgame, and that kinda throws a potential wrench in that. Now of course, this is Marvel we're talking about, and it wouldn't be the first time that they made a mistake that they later on just patch up in future movies. It also wouldn't be the first time that this specific director would have made a mistake in the MCU, seeing as though he did kinda goof on the timeline in Spider-Man Homecoming. So back in 2017, when Homecoming was released, the title cards in the movie said 8 years later, meaning 8 years after the events of the first Avengers movie. Keep in mind that the events during the first Avengers movie took place in 2012, so Homecoming posed an incorrect time jump. Now Marvel did acknowledge this mix-up, and they fixed it in Infinity War in a conversation between Stark and Doctor Strange, where they state that Loki and the attack on New York happened 6 years ago. Anyway, with Fury being real in Endgame, that may squash another popular theory people had about him in terms of being a Skrull back in Age of Ultron. Many people believe that in Age of Ultron, Nick Fury had cut his toast in a diagonal triangle way, and that proved that he was a Skrull, because in Captain Marvel we learned that Fury can't eat toast when it's cut diagonally. Apparently Watts was considering to address the toast scene from Captain Marvel, and he had this to say: "We were going to have him eat diagonal toast cut diagonally. That would have given it away." I already said in my previous video that I wasn't buying the Fury toast scene in Age of Ultron, because if you look real closely, the sandwich does not appear to be cut diagonally, and we can't even tell whether it's been toasted or not. Now, as for Far From Home, this Nick Fury reveal kind of serves two purposes. The first purpose is for the overall MCU, in which we can probably assume that Fury is developing the outer space agency called SWORD, which would serve to protect the world from alien threats. The other purpose for the Fury reveal was a major one for the director, and that was to help the story in Far From Home. Namely, he wanted to find a way to really make Mysterio's character work. He continued in the interview to say this: But to me, it was always just this fundamental question of how could Mysterio actually fool Nick Fury? Because Nick Fury's superpower is being suspicious, you know? It always sort of bothered me, even though we knew that's what we wanted the story to be. That Nick Fury could get duped even though he's been gone for 5 years and he's on his back foot. I wanted to come up with one last little reveal that could explain that unanswered question. And when you're making a con man movie, it just feels like the right thing to do to have one last little twist that makes you look at everything slightly differently. As we saw in Far From Home, Fury was acting really strange. We know that it was because it was Talos all along, but now we have even more insight as to why. The director simply wanted to use this Skrull version of Fury to help elevate Mysterio's character with his elaborate con job. Because odds are, if that was the real Fury in Far From Home, Mysterio wouldn't have made it past the opening credit scene. Now I will say, I think it should be stated that Marvel could always go back and retcon and patchwork all this stuff up. Maybe Talos has been impersonating Fury multiple times. We don't know. I sure don't. I actually think that if Talos has impersonated Fury multiple times, then the absolute best time for Fury to have left Earth to work with the Skrulls would have been after Captain America Winter Soldier. It was at this point when Fury discovered that S.H.I.E.L.D. had been compromised by Hydra, and he also transferred control of S.H.I.E.L.D. to Coulson to become the new director. During that time, Fury was MIA for a while, so it would explain his absence during major events in the MCU, like the Avengers fighting each other in Civil War, Spider-Man's introduction to the world in Homecoming, or even the Civil War going on in Wakanda in Black Panther. Either way, I'm curious to know, what did you all think about this Fury reveal? How long do you think he's been a Skrull? How do you feel about the director from Far From Home saying that it was the real Fury ever since Endgame? Do you have another idea as to when Fury may have done the big switch up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below so we can talk about it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. You guys know I always appreciate it. If you want to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and become a member of the E-Team. And don't forget to hit the notification button, because YouTube won't always let you know when I upload new videos unless you ring that bell. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.